Black Panther Wakanda Forever is the sequel to 2018's Black Panther, written by Ryan Coogler and Joe Robert Cole, and directed by Ryan Coogler. Where the first Black Panther was an exhilarating ride, Wakanda Forever skews toward a more somber and commemorative tone due to the untimely passing of its star, Chadwick Boseman, in 2020. Now, the main characters are back, including Shuri, played by Letitia Wright, Queen Ramonda, played by Angela Bassett, Nakia, played by Lupita Nyong'o, Okoye, played by Danai Gurira, M'Baku, played by Winston Duke, and Everett Ross, played by Martin Freeman. This movie introduces a new character, Namor, played by Tenoch Huerta, and it gives us an appearance from Julia Louis-Dreyfus as Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. Wakanda Forever picks up about 6 years after the original movie, at the moment of King T'Challa's death. It opens with Shuri attempting to create an artificial version of the storied heart-shaped herb in a last-ditch attempt to save her brother's life from an unknown illness. Frantically, she's attempting different simulations while her AI, Griot, informs her of T'Challa's failing heart rate. Her panicked process halts when Queen Ramonda informs her that T'Challa has joined the ancestors. T'Challa's funeral is presented in its entirety, starting with the blessing of the casket, which is then paraded through the streets of Wakanda, while Wakandans, dressed in all white, celebrate the life of their late leader through music and dance. Before T'Challa's casket is taken away, Shuri breaks down crying, unable to contain her grief any longer. The casket is then beamed up to a Wakandan ship and taken away. We jump a year ahead, and Shuri has thrown herself into her work, while Queen Ramonda is combating international pressure to share vibranium with the world. While Queen Ramonda is speaking on the UN floor in Switzerland, we see an attempt by French covert operatives to steal vibranium from a Wakandan research site. Queen Ramonda tells the UN that Wakanda does not share vibranium with other nations, not because vibranium is dangerous, but because other nations are potentially dangerous with vibranium. A large research ship has located vibranium deep beneath the ocean's surface. While verifying the find, the ship and its occupants are attacked by Namor and his water-dwelling tribe. Everyone on board is killed. And though Wakanda had nothing to do with this attack, because they are the only known country with access to vibranium, they are blamed. To commemorate the anniversary of T'Challa's death, Ramonda brings Shuri to a beach to burn their funeral attire. Now, this ritual symbolizes the end of their mourning, but Shuri refuses, stating that if she thinks too long about her brother, it will be the world that she burns. Suddenly, Namor rises from the water, confronting the women. He explains the attack on the research vessel, and he proposes an alliance, claiming that he and his people also have vibranium and an interest in keeping it out of the hands of other nations. Ramonda and Shuri don't believe him, claiming that vibranium does not exist outside of Wakanda. But Namor tells them that they are very wrong. However, all he wants is the person responsible for creating the machine that located the vibranium under the ocean. If Wakanda finds the scientist and either kills them or turns them over to Namor, it will solidify their alliance. But if they tell anyone about him or his people's existence, it will mark them as enemies. Shuri contacts Everett Ross to find the scientist responsible for the vibranium finding technology. We find out that the scientist is a 19-year-old MIT student named Riri Williams. Okoye and Shuri, against the approval of Ramonda, head to MIT to find Riri and get her to safety. They discover that Riri created the vibranium finder for a class and didn't sell it to the government. Instead, her professor did without her permission. So Shuri and Okoye go with Riri to her garage, where they are almost immediately surrounded by the CIA. They must fight their way out, with Okoye in Riri's father's old car, Shuri on a motorcycle, and Riri in her test Iron Man-like armor. A car chase ensues. They successfully escape the CIA. However, Namora and Atuma, two of Namor's tribesmen, ambush them on a bridge. Okoye's car flips multiple times, Shuri is knocked unconscious, and Riri is ripped down from the sky by a hook thrown by Namor's warriors. A fight between Okoye and Namor's warriors begins, and at first she believes she has successfully killed them. However, later they rise again, alive. Okoye is eventually disarmed by Atuma and thrown off the bridge. Shuri wakes and asks that she and Riri be taken to Namor rather than be killed, and so they are taken to Talokan. When Queen Ramonda finds out that Okoye has failed to protect Shuri, her anger and heartbreak leads her to strip Okoye of her position as the general of the Dora Milaje. While in Talokan, Namor explains the origins of his secretive tribe. Around 1500, the tribe was under attack by Spanish colonists when a shaman had a vision that their survival depended on a glowing underwater flower. From the flower, he created a drink. Namor's mother, who was pregnant with him at the time, did not want to take the drink out of fear for her unborn child. However, she eventually was convinced and took the drink. The flower turned their skin blue and gave them immeasurable strength, but they could no longer live and breathe above the water, so they all fled to the ocean. When Namor was born, he had pointed ears, winged feet, and was slow to age, characteristics believed to be given to him by the flower. Upon his mother's death, Namor brought her body to the surface so she could be buried at her old home. There he discovered that the indigenous people were enslaved by Spanish settlers. Upon seeing him, the settlers call Namor a demon and attack him and the Talokans. But the Talokans easily overpower and kill the settlers. Desperate to find Shuri, Ramonda visits Nakia in Haiti and begs her to find Shuri. Reluctantly, Nakia agrees and begins her search for possible locations of Talokan. Meanwhile, Ross arrives at the scene of the Talokan bridge attack. There he finds CIA director and his ex-wife, Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. While at the site, Ross finds Shuri's lost beads and uses them to contact Ramonda, warning her that Wakanda is believed to be behind the attacks and could face retaliation from the U.S. In Talokan, Shuri continues to plead for Riri's life and asks to be shown Namor's city. She is amazed and awed by their secret underwater world. Shuri tells Namor that if he spares Riri, Wakanda will ensure that her invention will not be used again, and that they will never reveal the existence of Talokan, but Namor refuses. He cannot risk his people's existence being revealed. Riri needs to die, and now that the surface knows about vibranium in the ocean, he will wage war on the world and would like Wakanda's help. He gives Shuri a bracelet made from the fibers of the underwater glowing flower as a show of good faith. Ramonda invites Namor to the surface to negotiate, while Nakia sneaks into Talokan to save Shuri and Riri. However, in the process, she kills 2 guards. Shuri wants Nakia to take Riri and leave her, but Nakia says they must all go before Namor returns. While above the ocean, Namor refuses Ramonda's offers, so she threatens to reveal Talokan to the world. Namor retaliates by saying that if she does, Ramonda will die and Wakanda will fall. When he returns to the cave and discovers Shuri and Riri have been rescued and 2 of his guards killed, he vows to attack Wakanda. Shuri, Riri, and Nakia make it back home where Nakia reunites with Okoye and explains why she's been away for so long. The loss of T'Challa was too painful. While visiting Okoye, they notice water flooding the streets. Suddenly, there are multiple explosions of water throughout the city. Wakanda is under attack by the Talokans. Along with Shuri, they attempt to evacuate the people of Wakanda, while Namor flies to the throne room and attempts to drown Ramonda and Riri. Ramonda is able to save Riri, but it costs her her own life, and she drowns. Namor issues them a warning: surrender or perish. At Ramonda's funeral, M'Baku encourages Shuri to properly mourn her late brother and mother. While attempting to figure out their next move, Wakanda evacuates its people to the Jabari Mountains, where M'Baku again warns Shuri of the risk of seeking revenge on Namor and instead encourages her to deal with her grief. With Nakia's urging, Shuri makes another attempt at synthesizing the herb with the help of the fiber in the Talokan bracelet given to her by Namor. Finally, Shuri is successful and they are able to create a synthetic heart-shaped herb which Shuri drinks. She is then taken to the ancestral plane. When she arrives there, she is unexpectedly met by her cousin Killmonger. He makes her admit that she secretly wanted him to show up because she doesn't actually believe in the ancestral plane. While arguing over how best to take care of Namor, Killmonger tells her that T'Challa was too noble to do what was needed, and that Shuri must decide what type of panther she will be. Will she be noble like her brother or take care of business like Killmonger? Shuri wakes up, shaken and convinced that the herb didn't work. She lies to Nakia, saying that she didn't see anyone on the ancestral plane, and in her anger, she punches a suit so hard that it hits the wall, revealing that she does now, in fact, possess the power of the Black Panther. Shuri reveals herself as the Black Panther to the Wakandan Council, informing them of her plans to defeat Namor. While Namor can breathe in the water and on land, they plan on luring him to a place with less oxygen and trapping him away from water in order to weaken him. M'Baku again warns Shuri that killing Namor will not help her grief and will instead lead Wakanda into eternal war. The Wakandans lure the Talokan to their ship by using Riri's vibranium detecting machine. When they arrive, they are ambushed by the Wakandan ship. Shuri and Riri successfully lure Namor into their trap, while Nakia, Okoye now in new midnight armor, M'Baku and the Wakandan army fight the Talokans. Shuri locks Namor in a flying ship containing heaters, hoping that the heat will dry Namor out and weaken him. But in a desperate attempt to survive, Namor uses his spear to pierce and damage the ship. Shuri commands the ship to take them to a desert where the ship explodes, leaving Shuri and a weakened Namor to fight on the sand. At first, Shuri has the upper hand, but suddenly Namor impales Shuri with his staff against a rock and attempts to limp his way towards the rejuvenating water. Shuri, in a final attempt to destroy Namor, breaks the staff and pulls herself off. She then gets in between Namor and the water, says Wakanda Forever, crosses her arms over her chest, and detonates the crashed ship, burning Namor in the flames. She puts his spear to his neck, ready to kill him, but she pauses. Back at sea, the Wakandans are losing to the Talokans. While holding the spear to Namor, Shuri thinks of her brother and the moment her mother told her he was dead. Then, from the ancestral plane, Ramonda says to Shuri, "Show him who you are." In that moment, Shuri decides to show Namor mercy and demands that he yield. She says that if he yields and promises not to kill Riri, in return, Wakanda will protect him and his people's secret. Namor yields, and they return together to the Wakandan ship just in time to stop the fight and save the Wakandans. After the fight, Riri, now no longer in danger, goes back home with a gift from Shuri, her father's old car which was destroyed on the bridge when the Talokans attacked. Nakia returns to Haiti, while Shuri stays in Wakanda to help rebuild. Back at Talokan, Namora tells Namor that she is upset that he yielded, to which he says that one day the surface will attack Wakanda and they will need Talokan to help. The Wakandan tribes gather for the coronation of their new queen and Black Panther. Instead, M'Baku arrives, telling the tribes that Shuri has other pressing matters to take care of and that he will be challenging her for the throne. Shuri is on her way to see Nakia in Haiti. When she arrives, Nakia tells her she has everything ready, but Shuri requests to do this alone. Shuri makes her way to the beach where a fire is burning, takes her funeral robes from her bag, and places them on the flame. We last see Shuri alone on the beach, tears falling down her face, finally allowing herself to properly grieve. In the mid-credit scene, we are back with Shuri on the beach in Haiti. Nakia comes from behind, holding hands with a young boy. Nakia reveals the boy is hers and T'Challa's son, also named T'Challa. They had agreed to keep him a secret so that he could grow up away from the pressures of the throne. And so the movie officially ends with Shuri learning that her brother, in fact, has an heir, and she has a nephew. Shuri takes center stage in the sequel and represents Coogler's often visited theme of tradition versus innovation. She starts the movie seeking solace in her technology, first by trying and failing to save her brother, and then later by refusing to acknowledge her grief and throwing herself into her inventions. Shuri's deep skepticism of the ancestral plane fuels her grief and feelings of loss. This theme is also represented in Shuri's eventual synthetic creation of the heart-shaped herb, literally combining her technology with the traditions of her ancestors. Part of Shuri's journey is deciding what type of Black Panther she'll be. Will she be consumed by revenge or seek something higher? Will she listen to Killmonger and handle things like him, or will she handle things like her brother? At first, Shuri embraces her need for revenge, much like her cousin Killmonger, and she tracks Namor down in order to kill him. However, at the last moment, much like T'Challa, who spared the man who murdered their father, she offers Namor the chance to yield, and even borrows a line that T'Challa used on Zemo. "Vengeance has consumed you. I will not let it consume me." The untimely death of Chadwick Boseman added a sorrowful challenge for Coogler. How do you pay tribute to Chadwick while also moving the story forward? Chadwick's presence is felt throughout the movie. A particularly poignant moment comes in the beginning of the film, where the usually heroic Marvel Studios graphic was transformed to feature only clips of Boseman as the Black Panther, with none of the usual triumphant music and sound effects. Complete silence. The movie takes plenty of time to sit with the death of T'Challa and allows us to say goodbye. The beginning is mostly the funeral, where T'Challa's casket, made of a beautiful black wood, with a silver embossed plate depicting the Black Panther with his arms crossed, is seen receiving its last blessings and then carried through the streets of Wakanda by the Dora Milaje. The parade, while solemn, is also a celebration. The funeral feels like both a beautiful dedication to a beloved character as well as a tribute to a great actor who left us too soon. The funeral and King T'Challa's death is used to increase the stakes of the cinematic universe. With T'Challa's death, also dies the Black Panther due to the fact that Killmonger burned all the heart-shaped herbs in the first movie, and a suitable replacement has not been made despite Shuri's best efforts. This leaves Wakanda vulnerable in a way that they haven't been in centuries. The final tribute to T'Challa's memory comes during the mid-credits scene, when Nakia reveals their son, also named T'Challa and heir to the throne of Wakanda. It's a touching way to allow the memory of T'Challa to live on, as well as a device for the MCU to bring another T'Challa into its movies without insulting the legacy of Chadwick Boseman. Wakanda Forever introduces the MCU character Namor. Namor is the leader of Talokan. He's an especially dynamic character due to the fact that he's not your typical MCU villain. He attacks Wakanda out of fear of extinction and a need to protect, rather than a desire to control and conquer. The choice to make Namor an empathetic character made the conflict between the Wakandans and Namor's tribe all the more nuanced. Producer Nate Moore referred to Namor as a man who believes 100% that he's the hero in his own story. He doesn't see himself as a villain. Because in Namor's eyes, what he's doing to protect people who have already made it through a tragic history. The character of Namor and the city of Talokan underwent a large reimagination for Wakanda Forever. In the comics, Namor is a leader of Atlantis, and the stories are heavily Greek mythology inspired. However, for the movie, the creators took their inspiration from Mesoamerica, a region that now spans parts of modern Mexico and Central America. The name Talokan most likely comes from Talokan, an Aztec paradise ruled by the rain god Tlaloc. Director Ryan Coogler said this about the change. There have been a lot of representations and creative depictions of Atlantis based off of Plato's Atlantis, the Greco-Roman concept of a city sunk into the sea. That idea exists in a lot of different ways. We wanted our film to exist alongside those movies and be different. It was really out of respect to the audience, not wanting to give them something similar to other things that have come before it. And now we have to discuss the possible plot hole of Wakanda Forever with the question, how did Shuri survive being impaled by Namor? There was no blood in the scene in order to maintain a PG-13 rating, but how was she able to pull herself from the spear and quickly flip over Namor to get in between him and the water? Did the vibranium heal her? Did the new synthetic heart-shaped herb grant her mutant Wolverine-like healing abilities? Or was this just a minor plot hole? What are your thoughts? Black Panther, Wakanda Forever is ultimately a poignant sequel to the exciting original Black Panther movie. It deftly explores both the individual and communal grief of its characters, while also signaling to the grief felt by its creators and the audience in the loss of Chadwick Boseman. It also pushes the franchise forward with the introduction of a new Black Panther, a new underwater civilization, and ultimately a rewarding story. Did you think it lived up to the original? Were you moved by the tributes to Chadwick Boseman? Are you looking forward to seeing Namor in more MCU films? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and thanks for watching Both Aunt Vivs.